So good morning, everyone. We're going to start this Liveroute webinar today. The subject for today's webinar is the email security on the cloud. This should be an hour-long webinar. I'm going to try to make it as short as possible to cover as much of the details, but this should take an hour exactly. All right. To give you an idea on the agenda, so today we're going to cover a couple of things. First, I'm going to introduce who we are, what we do, and then we're going to move forward to understanding the different levels of security concepts that are provided by Office 365 and the email in the email concept. So there is, for example, the service level security concepts, the security customer control, the privacy by design, the privacy customer control, the service compliance, and the customer compliance controls. So through this detail, you'll be able to understand what are the different options that you have from Office 365. What concepts can you use to move forward from a security point of view, and what is it that you can see to give you peace of mind as an IT manager when deploying something like Office 365. So who are we? First, Liveroute is the first cloud provider in the region, in the UAE. We have started with Microsoft since their release of the cloud concepts back in 2011. We have been the largest deployment partner in the cloud for Microsoft, deploying over 100 customers, something around 25,000 seats have been deployed for Office 365. So what we're trying to say is that we have gained the experience over time. We have faced most of the problems that occur when it comes to the deployment and migration part, and we understand what are the usual concerns when it comes to our customers. Hence why we're having such a webinar. My name is Omar. I'm one of the key account managers here at Liveroute, and part of what we wanted to do as key account managers is, since we are the front facing, usually we get the questions from the customers. We wanted to be the front face to you guys also to give you the idea. So let's move forward. So first, let's understand what are the ideas. Information security is an essential consideration for all IT organizations around the world. Okay, so in addition to the prevalence of information technology, the complexity of delivery access to services from growing number of devices, platforms, and places than ever before forces information security to be a paramount matter. So in other words, today, the platform for delivery is growing. People are bringing their own devices. Concepts are coming all the time. New tablets are coming all the time. New cloud concepts are coming all the time. For example, connecting your mobile with your laptop or your TV, and the whole concept of Internet of Things, where things are on the cloud somewhere and you connect it. The more you grow, the more security concern comes. So multi-device access benefits your user, especially with consumerization of IT. But border access represents another potential attack service. So what do we do? When you consider moving your organization to the cloud, services to store your data and various productivity services, the security concerns add another layer of consideration. You have to be able to trust your service provider to take care of the key expectations around processing and managing your data. So the whole three key concepts are the security, the privacy, and the compliance, right? So Office 365 has two equally important dimensions. The first dimension includes the service level capabilities that include technology, operations procedure, and the policies that are enabled by default for customers using the service. And the second is customer controls that include features that enable you to customize your Office 365 environment based on the specific needs of your organization. security in Office 365 is an ongoing process, right? So it is something that is evolving, that is becoming better over time. The more the problems occur, the more we evolve as in the internet, the more problems and the more potential risks that happen. And what's good about being on the cloud is that you can update that and evolve that proactively with the things happening around. All right. So to help keep Office 365 security at the top of the industry, we use processes such as security development lifecycle, traffic throttling, and preventing, detecting, and mitigating breaches. So what are the features? So let's go more into details. So the service level security is where we first come and understand what's happening inside the Office 365 tenant. So at the service level, we use defense in-depth strategy. Okay, this protects your data through layers of security at the physical, at the logical, and at the data layer in the services. So the strategy also includes a tactic to detect and prevent and mitigate a security breach before it happens, as they say. So before we start going into the service level, for example, on the physical side, what do we do beforehand? Port scanning and remediation, perimeter vulnerability and scanning, operating system security patching, network level distributed denial of service detection and prevention, and multi-factor authentication for service access. These are all done beforehand, before we start talking about anything from a physical network or a logical layer. Preventing breach also involves automatically deleting unnecessary accounts when an employee leaves, changes groups, or does not use the account prior to its expiration. Wherever possible, human intervention is replaced by any automated tool-based process, including routine functions such as deployment, debugging, diagnostic collection, and restarting services. We continue to invest in systems automation that helps identify abnormal, suspicious behavior and respond quickly to mitigate security risk. So how does this happen? So what happens if we go more granular? So the diagram here shows you, for example, how the system is broken down. So what we do is, first we look at the physical layer, and then we go inside and look at the logical layer, and then we go more inside and look at the data layer, right? So from a physical layer, there are two main concepts that we look at. The facility itself, right? So people come and ask me, oh, my data is not saved inside the country. I'm afraid I don't see the servers themselves. I don't see how things are happening. I'm not understanding how things are going. So to answer that, Office 365 said, or Microsoft said the following: customer data is stored in Office 365 data centers that are geographically distributed while taking regional data location considerations into account. So the data centers are built from the ground up to protect services and data from harm by natural disaster or unauthorized access. That's number one, right? Number two, data center access is restricted 24 hours a day by a job function. So in other words, only customer applications and services access given to essential personnel. Physical access control uses multiple authentication and security processes, including, and this means that if you yourself would like to come and go see the process itself, or people want to go see the servers of the data centers themselves, you have to go through some procedures. And part of these procedures include badges and smart cards, biometric scanners, on-premise security offers, continuous video surveillance, and two-factor authentication. So the data centers are monitored using motion sensors, video surveillance, and security breach alarms. So in case, and overall that, to ensure that no harm can be done in case of any natural disaster, security also includes automated fire prevention and extinguishing systems. Also, if there is any type of earthquake, seismic braced racks are placed for if necessary. So in other words, physically, you're covered. You're covered at any point, and made sure that you are provided with the highest of security levels. And I do not think that any company, how small or how big it is, would be investing in such security procedures as Microsoft would for its customers. So you'd be getting the high-end, top-of-the-line security features from a physical point of view. Now we get to the network side. So what happens in the network side? So control devices at the network edge and on point throughout the network. They allow only connections and communications that are necessary to allow systems to operate. So for example, you have a problem, you need to connect to your data center, you need to see something in the server. They would only go through a certain policy to understand why you need to connect there, and then they will connect you through that network for only that session to make sure that the connection is done, and if it is necessary for what is happening in your operations. And then we move forward. They provide access control lists implemented in the form of tiered access control lists on routers, IPsec policies, on hosts, firewall rules, and host-based firewall rules are implemented in the network with restriction on network communication. So, and finally, data centers are always monitored from a network point of view to prevent any access to it remotely. Now we go to the logical concept. So what happens there is that, on the logical layer, there are a couple of things that we need to cover: the host, the application, and the admin user. So to move forward, we need to secure the host machines, applications running on those hosts, and from the administrators that may perform any work on those host machines and applications. First part is the automated operations. Applications by administrators are automated so that human intervention is reduced to a minimum, reducing the possibility of any inconsistent configuration or a malicious activity. This automated approach extends to the deployment of systems within our data centers. Number 2, admin access to data. Core tenets of the administrative access to Office 365 have their data strictly controlled, and this is used through role-based access and granting the personnel least privileged access to the service that is necessary to perform specific operations. So this type of control is done whether it's on the physical side or on the logical side. So there is a process to it, and people move forward to it. And for example, what they use is something called a lockbox that administrators use to request the access for the elevated privilege. For example, personnel level to ensure that there are appropriate background checks and strict account management so that only those essential to the task may perform the task itself. So you're the IT manager of company X and you would like to go access your system. They will need to do a background check on you, understand what you do. If there is any, for example, risks out of you being maybe taking the data, sharing it somewhere, doing something with it, they will make sure that all these are covered before they would allow you in. And then they would only allow you in if you were part of that organization. Then there's also role-based access control, and then the lockbox process, which allows just-in-time accounts with high entropy password, access for a limited amount of time, and access to take specific actions based on the role. So it depends on what you do, you will be able to do certain functions. Other than that, you cannot access. Then we move to the security development lifecycle. So Microsoft Security Development Lifecycle is a comprehensive security assurance process that informs every stage of design, development, and deployment of software and services, including the Office 365. And then we move to the anti-malware, patching, and configuration management. So any company might have a mechanism to have anti-malware deployed. So the use of anti-malware software is a principal mechanism for protection of assets and Office 365 from malicious software. The software detects and prevents the introduction of computer viruses and worms in the service systems. It also quarantines infected systems and prevents further damage until remediation steps are taken. Anti-malware software provides both preventive and detective control over malicious software. So in other words, from a logical layer, as you can see, we are covered. We're covered from the point of from the point of the automated operations, how the admin accesses the data, the security development lifecycle, and also, if you would like, anti-malware patching and configuration of your management. So now we move forward to the service level security of the data layer. So the data layer has a couple of things that we need to cover. First part is the data integrity and encryption. So in other words, Office 365 was designed to host multiple customers in the service in a high secure way through data isolation. So in other words, you as a customer have the full breadth of the data center of Microsoft to use as much as you want. In other words, you will not be limited to a server or 2 or 3. As much as you need, you will be provided automatically. And this is also the case for each and every other customer that my Office 365 does. So what it does is that it creates data isolation. So data storage and processing for each tenant is segregated through Active Directory and capabilities specifically developed to help build, manage, and secure the multi-tenant environment provided by Office 365. Active Directory isolates your data using security boundaries. And this safeguards your data so that the data cannot be accessed or compromised by co-tenants. In the data integrity encryption, Office 365 services follow industry cryptographic standards such as the secure socket layer and transport layer security. Also, it provides you with the advanced encryption standards at 128-bit and the 256-bit encryption. And these type of standards are used to protect your confidentiality and integrity, and they are applied on various protocols such as the HTTP and HTTPS, POP3, etc. And these are the protocols used by the applications provided, for example, in Lync, in Outlook web app, and in any device. So Microsoft is also working in supporting and deploying strong encryptions on the new SSL version 3 and the TLS version 1.1/1.2. Overall, Microsoft also uses the BitLocker concept as one mechanism to encrypt data at rest. So BitLocker is either deployed with advanced encryption 128-bit or 256-bit encryption on servers that hold all messaging data, including emails and IM conversations. In certain other scenarios, as appropriate, Microsoft uses file-level encryption. For example, when files and presentations are uploaded by meeting participants, like today, like what we're doing right now, this content is encrypted using 128-bit AES encryption by Lync Online Web Conferencing Server. So in other words, if anything or anyone is trying to hack through our systems, we are covered from that point of view. The latest encryption feature with which content in OneDrive for Business and SharePoint Online will be encrypted at rest will start rolling out to customers soon, and with this, the encryption technology in Office 365 moves beyond a single encryption key per disk to deliver a unique encryption key per file. With this technology, every file stored on SharePoint Online, including OneDrive for Business folders, is encrypted with its own key, and subsequent updates to the file are encrypted with their own unique key as well. In other words, your organization's file will be distributed across multiple Microsoft Azure storage containers, each with separate credentials, rather than storing them all in a single database. So by spreading the encrypted files across storage locations, encrypting the map of file location itself, and physically separating master encryption keys from both content and the file map, this new encryption storage technology makes OneDrive for Business and SharePoint Online the most highly secure environment for your data. Moving forward, there's also the protection from security threats. So by validating the ISO 27001 and 27002, which are part of the compliance we're going to discuss later, so these are implemented by Microsoft via the independent audits of these controls. You are able to assess the effectiveness of the controls deployed by us. So in other words, you feel you're not 100% sure, you can go online, go through the ISO 27001 and the ISO 27002 and understand how the functions happen. So the overall cyber threat landscape has evolved from traditional opportunistic threats to also include persistent and determined adversaries. So defense in-depth approach that we discussed earlier to address the continuum of threats ranging from common hacktivists to cyber criminals to nation-state actors. So Office 365 security strategy is founded upon a dynamic strategy with 4 pillars of threat. So the idea is the 4 pillars are the prevent breach, detect breach, respond to breach, and recover from breach. But before we do the 4 pillars, the mode that most of the security officials at Microsoft go for is that they think of an assume breach concept. So in other words, the mindset shift that is made to make our defenses more effective and ever evolving is commonly referred as assume breach. In other words, the people sit there assuming that you've already been breached and they need to cover it as much as possible and as quickly as possible. And what they do is, on the side, they do exercises to artificially propagate a security threat and have another group respond and mitigate to that threat. So in other words, this makes Office 365 something that is always being updated with possible risks, possible attacks, possible problems that occur, and makes it easier for them to detect any type of new threats or new concepts as much as they can and ongoing as they can. So let's look at the pillars themselves. So what do they do? The first pillar of the security strategy is referred to as the prevent breach. The investment in this pillar involves continuous prevention improvements to built-in security features. These include port scanning and remediation, perimeter vulnerability scanning, operating system patches, network level isolation, distributed denial of service detection and prevention, just-in-time access, live site penetration testing, and multi-factor authentication to the services. So that's pillar number 1. Pillar number 2, which is the detect breach. In this pillar, the system and security alerts are harvested and correlated via a massive internal analysis system. The signals analyze alerts that are internal to the system as well as the external signals. Okay? For example, coming from customer incidents. Based on machine learning, we can quickly incorporate new patterns to trigger alerts as well as automatically trigger alerts on anomalies in the system. Pillar number 3 is the respond to breach. So we started with trying to prevent the breach, and then we detect the breach, and then we respond to that breach. And in that response, the pillar is used to mitigate the effects if a component is compromised. A diligent incident response process, standard operating procedures in case of an incident, ability to deny or stop access to sensitive data, and identification tools to promptly identify involved parties helps ensure that the mitigation is successful. And last pillar is to recover from a breach. So the last one is, let's say worst case scenario, somebody was able to breach, somebody was able to go in, somebody was able to break through all Microsoft's barriers. This last one is how to recover from a breach. So the 4th pillar is referred to as the recover from breach, which includes the standard operating procedure to return the service to the operations. The pillars include the ability the ability to to move forward with the idea of returning the systems to its rightful process and understanding how it occurs, and change the security principles to the environment, automatically update the affected systems, and audit the states of the deployment to identify any anomalies that have stayed there. Moreover, we move forward to the security and monitoring response. Many threats target software vulnerabilities, but others attack operational weaknesses. Yes, we are. To anybody that's listening to us, we are on the service level security data layer side. So we have just finished the protection from security threats. We're moving into the security monitoring and response part. So many threats target software vulnerabilities, but others attack operational weaknesses, which is why Microsoft uses the OSA framework, as I called, or the Operational Security Assurance Framework. OSA supports continuous monitoring, helps to identify operational risks, provides operational security guidelines, and validates that those guidelines are followed. So OSA helps make Microsoft Cloud infrastructure more resilient to attack by decreasing the amount of time needed to detect, and respond to security threats. And then we move to the last point of the data layer slide, which is the independent verification. An Office 365 has operationalized security into a scalable process that can quickly adapt to security trends and industry-specific needs. Microsoft engages in regular risk management reviews, and it develops and maintains a security control framework that meets the latest standards. Internal reviews and external audits by trusted organizations are incorporated into the Office 365 service lifecycle. Close working relationships with other Microsoft teams result in a comprehensive approach to securing applications in the cloud. Key standards that give you confidence in Microsoft security technologies and best practices are independent audits and verifications of adherence to standard embodied in the ISO 27001, the SSAE 16, the SOC 1 Type 2, and the HIPAA, which are the compliance features that we're going to be talking to you about later on in the slides. Now we move to the security customer control. So Office 365 combines the familiar Microsoft Office suite with cloud-based versions of the next generation communications and collaboration services. For example, we all know that in Office 365 what you get is the Exchange Online, the SharePoint Online, the Lync Online, and the Office 365, the Office 2013 application. Sorry. So you don't only get Office, you get a full-fledged enterprise solution for your system. So each of these services offer individualized security features that you can control yourself. And these controls allow you to help adhere to compliance requirements. So your company has certain requirements that you need to follow. This is how you go for it. It gives access to services and content to individuals in your organizations, configure anti-malware, anti-spam controls, and encrypt data. So there are two main concepts here. It's the data integrity and encryption, and the secure end user access. So let's go first to the data integrity encryption. So along with the encryption technologies that are addressed at the service level in Office 365 and managed by Microsoft, Microsoft also offers various technologies that can implement and configure in your Office 365 tenant. These technologies offer a variety of ways to encrypt data in different workloads, and offer ways to encrypt data at rest or in transit. So the technologies are, for example, rights management systems, services, secure multi-purpose internet mail extension, the Office 365 message encryption, transport layer security for the SMTP messaging to partners. So let's take, for example, first the rights management service. Most of you would know these details, but I'm going to go through them just in case. So the rights management system is a unique technology that provides best-in-class data protection at the file level. So with RMS, you can not only encrypt data, but also apply policies on the data to limit or allow the actions by the recipients of the data. So RMS can be deployed in two forms. So there's the AD RMS, an on-premise implementation, or the Azure RMS, a cloud-based offering of RMS. So Azure RMS comes with Office 365 and can be deployed for an entire organization with a few clicks. You can visit the website on Azure or on Microsoft's TechNet if you would like to have more detailed features on how to deploy Azure RMS, or you can contact us at Liveroute and we can follow through with this as much as you want. So with the effective use of Azure RMS while sharing sensitive data, you can reduce the security risk. So you can reduce the security risk due to wiretapping, man-in-the-middle attack, and more. At the same time, you can also prevent any unwarranted access of data. For example, emails and files in transit are at rest by an unauthorized user who does not have appropriate permissions via policies that are embedded in metadata, mitigating the risk of data loss or breach. Now we move forward to the secure multi-purpose internet mail extension. Again, I do apologize that I'm going through these details again, as some professionals over here would already know all the functions and the capabilities of the technologies we're speaking about right now. But I will go through it to link it between it and Office 365. So going to the secure multi-purpose internet mail extension is a standard for public key encryption and digital signing of MIME data. So what does this do? It allows users to encrypt an email, digitally sign an email, and it also provides the following cryptographic security services for electronic messaging applications. These are the authentication, the message integrity, non-repudiation of origin using digital signatures, and privacy and data security using encryption. So, in other words, you may generate the public and private certificates for end users using public key infrastructure in on-premise environments. Public certificates are distributed to your on-premise Active Directory and stored into two attributes, which can then be replicated to your tenant on Office 365. Private certificates are distributed to end users and may be stored on their devices, smart cards, or other applications. You maintain control of the master key in your PKI infrastructure. Further, Office 365 also provides the capability for end users to compose, encrypt, decrypt, read, and digitally sign emails between two users in an organization using Outlook or using Exchange ActiveSync. An email that is encrypted using S-MIME can be decrypted only by the email recipient's private key. Moving forward to the Office 365 message encryption. Office 365 message encryption delivers confidential business communications with enhanced security, allowing users to send, receive encrypted emails as easy as regular emails directly from their desktop. Email can be encrypted without complex hardware and software to purchase, configure, or maintain, which helps to minimize capital investments, free up IT resources, and mitigate messaging risks. Implementation of and protection of data with Office 365 message encryption thwarts the threats that may occur due to wiretapping, man-in-the-middle attacks, or various forms of digital interception. This is true for email messages sent internally and externally at the same time. Any unwarranted access of email messages is prevented via policies intrinsic to the email messages themselves. This mitigates the risk of data falling in wrong hands, either knowingly or unknowingly, and provides further data loss prevention capabilities. And lastly, in the data integrity and encryption, we look at the anti-malware spam controls. So configuration Options for anti-malware and anti-spam controls are provided in the service, and you may optionally choose to use your own anti-malware service and route to and from Office 365 via the third-party services. So there are a lot of customers that sometimes don't feel sometimes would feel better if they would go with their own anti-malware, although we do not suggest that, since Microsoft has invested heavily into the anti-malware, anti-spam. But in the case where there is a customer who would like to go forward with one of their own anti-malware, they could do that easily, and they could route the traffic to go through it as in any way they want. And they could do that by scanning to protect incoming, outgoing, and internal messages from malicious software transferred through the email. So in other words, your administrators can use the Office 365 Administration Center to manage anti-malware controls, including advanced junk mail options and organization-wide safe and blocked sender lists. Individual users can manage their safe and blocked senders from within their inboxes in Microsoft Outlook or from the Microsoft Outlook web app. Content controls and multi-engine malware scanning also help eliminate documents containing malicious code based on file name extensions. Office 365 blocks certain file types that can contain malicious code from being uploaded to or retrieved from the service. And then finally, Office 365 uses an intelligent instant messaging filter to help protect the service and your network against malware and spam via the Internet Messenger, which is Link. So later on, we can have separate calls with any one of you who would like to go through the admin center and see how you can do the controls from them from that. So there's a Mr. Akil over here. To answer your question, yes, we can show you this through the admin center. Moving forward, there's the transport layer security for SMTP messages to partners. You may set up an SMTP connection to their entrusted partners that is secured using transport layer security negotiation. The connector can be sent emails using either opportunistic or forced TLS. Sending email via an encrypted SMTP channel can prevent data in emails from being stolen in man-in-the-middle attacks, where one corporation is sending emails to other business partners. And finally, we go to the point number 2 in the security customer control slide. Point number 2 is the secure end user access. So what Office 365, in Office 365 data and services are secured at the data center, network, logical, and storage in all transient stages. In addition, it is critical to be able to control access to data and how it may be used. So in Office 365 services, Azure Active Directory is used as the underlying identity platform. This enables your tenant with a strong authentication option, granular control over how IT professionals and users can access and use the service. Office 365 also allows integration with on-premise Active Directory or other directory stores and identity systems such as Active Directory Federation services or third-party secure token systems to enable secure token-based authentication services. So what do we cover? We cover federated identity and single sign-on security provisions. We cover Office 365 message encryptions and anti-malware and anti-spam control. Also, we provide the multi-factor authentication. So what do we provide in the federated identity and single sign-on security provisions? Your administrators can federate an on-premise Active Directory or other directory stores with Azure Active Directory. After federation is configured, all Office 365 users whose identities are based on the federated domain can use their existing corporate logons to authenticate to Office 365. Federation enables secure token-based authentication. This allows administrators to create additional authentication mechanisms such as multi-factor authentication, client-based access controls, allowing organizations to control how users access information from specific devices or specific locations, or the combination of both. So a lot of the customers would come back to us and go like, I wouldn't want them to be able to access their emails if they're at a certain area outside the company. I don't want them to be able to send emails through their mobile to certain organizations if they're outside the office. You would like to be able to control the functions and how they happen within the system. So in that sense, this is where the federated identity and single sign-on security provisions cover. There's also the role-based access control, or the RBAC, similar to the access control procedure for Microsoft data centers described earlier in the automated operations section. With IAM Federation, Link Online users can IAM in highly secure environments with users in other organizations that use Link Online. So internet messaging, in that sense, in Link, you're not limited to within your organization. You can have other organizations also with you. So everybody here on the call, if you would like to add, if you have Link on your systems and you would like to have me, for example, as someone that you want to be able to have conversations with regarding Office 365, this is possible. And since there's more than one environment that can connect to you, the security on that happens easily, and it connects easily to Link Online, the one that we're using now, or Link on premise if you would like to, and even the Skype system if you would like to go forward to. And all federated communications are encrypted between the internet messenger systems using access proxy servers. In addition, Link Online allows administrators to save internet messaging conversations. So you have the control and the visibility. Lastly, you go to the multi-factor authentication. So sometimes in secure environments, banks, governments, in order to make sure that the person logging in is the person logging in, it's not like a software or someone accessing, they use multi-factor authentication. And what we usually recommend is that there's a human intervention part where there's the physically someone answering a phone. So the options are, you can have the multi-factor authentication do, for example, call you on your mobile, text you on your mobile. The users receive a text containing a 6-digit code that they must enter. Call you on your office phone, notify you through an app, or show a one-time code in the app. So, in other words, yes, you have everything automated, but what happens if you want to make sure that everything is safe? You can do that through multi-factor authentication. And this covers the security customer controls from this side. Now we move to the privacy by design. So people want to know that they can have that they're private, their information is private, and that they can control it as much as they want. So when you entrust your data in Office 365, you remain the sole owner, and you retain the rights, title, and interest in the data you store. So in other words, Microsoft does not mine your data for advertising or for any other purposes other than providing you services that you have paid for. Unlike Google, for example, where they publicly say that they mine your data to be able to provide you, at least if we're talking at the minimum bare of what they provide, what they would use this data for is to provide you advertisements. Okay, but then who knows? They provide mining, and they do through the mining of their data. You do not know what they do with your data. In that sense, Office 365 does not cover that. What it does not mine your data for advertising or for any other purpose on that fact. If you ever choose to leave, you take your data with you with full fidelity. So you don't leave and you go like, oh, the data will die or get deleted or something. Although there is the deletion concept from there, but the minute you leave, you're able to take all your data with you. We tell you where your data resides. So who has access and under what circumstances. So anytime there's an access or anytime someone comes in, you're able to easily see who does what and how it happens. Access to your data is strictly limited, non-destructive, logged, and audited. So at any point, you feel something wrong is happening or something that does not seem right, you're able to pull out an audit report on what has happened, who had access, who moved in, who moved out, who has control over your system. Beyond this, privacy controls to allow you to configure exactly who has access to what within your organization. Strict controls and design elements prevent mingling of your data with that of other organizations using Office 365 from Office 365 Data Center staff having access to your data. So as a customer, you need to be able to trust the governments will respect your privacy as a citizen also. So Microsoft encourages governments inquiry to be made directly to the customer itself, unless legally prohibited, and will challenge attempts to prohibit disclosure in court. There are multiple cases that if at any point any of our customers feel that that their information might be breached by the government, there are multiple cases which we can provide to show you that Microsoft went all the way to legally challenge the requests from the government, and there is not even one case that is known till now where Microsoft has lost to actually being asked to provide the data without having a fight with it. So in other words, your data is secure and safe. If anything, it is more safe than what resides in your system because of all the controls that Microsoft has. Moving forward, we go to the privacy customer controls. So what can you do in the privacy part? So in addition to the service levels capabilities, Office 365 enables you to collaborate through the use of transparent policies and strong tools while providing you the distinct ability to control information sharing. So it allows individuals and administrators to specify access permissions to documents, workbooks, and presentations. This helps you to prevent sensitive information from being printed, forwarded, or copied by unauthorized people by applying intelligent policies. Also, there are privacy controls for your sites and your libraries and your folders, in other words, for your SharePoint. A key component service of Office 365 that provides collaboration functionality has a number of privacy controls. One example is the SharePoint online sites are set to be private by default. A second example is that the document uploaded on OneDrive for business is not shared until the user provides explicit permissions and identifies who to share with. Lastly, there's the privacy controls for the communication for your IM, for your link. And there are various administrative level controls as well as user level controls to enable or block communications with external users and organizations. One example is blocking access to the federation in link. Similarly, there are controls throughout the service for admins and users to ensure privacy of their content and communications. And then we move to the service compliance part. To show you that Office 365 or Microsoft in general is thriving to become the best cloud provider from all points and from the security point of view, they have applied to make sure that they've got all type of verifications and audits, all types of certifications that are needed, and follow all types of standards and regulations that are provided throughout the world. And these are, for example, the ISO 27001. So Office 365 service meets those standards and was the first major business productivity public cloud service to have implemented the rigorous set of global standards covering physical, logical, process, and management controls from the ISO 20001. And then there's the FISMA. So the Office 365 has granted FISMA moderate authority to operate by multiple federal agencies. Operating under FISMA requires transparency and frequent security reporting to our US federal customers. Microsoft applies these specialized processes across our infrastructure to further enhance our online service security and compliance program for the benefit of customers who are not subject to FISMA requirements. So, if you're in the US, your company's in the US, and part of its requirements it has FISMA as part of what it follows, Microsoft covers that easily. And then we go to Europe. What happens is that Office 365 is the first major business productivity public cloud service provider to offer HIPAA Business Associate Agreement to all customers. HIPAA is a US law that applies to healthcare entities. It governs the use, disclosure, and safeguarding of protected health information and imposes requirements on covered entities to sign business associate agreements with their vendors to have access to their PHI, the protected health information. So any hospitals or any health authorities that would like to use their systems need to follow a certain regulations through HIPAA, and this is where Microsoft is one of the first to ever provide that. EU model clauses. So Office 365 becomes the first major business productivity public cloud service provider to sign the standard contractual clauses created by the European Union with all customers. So the EU model clauses addresses the international transfer of data. Office 365 is one of very few cloud services, if not the only cloud service, that has received broad validation from European data protection authorities regarding its approach to the EU model clauses, including from Bavaria, Denmark, France, Ireland, Luxembourg, Malta, and Spain. So if you have any of your offices based on any of those locations and would require to have EU model clauses as part of what they follow, they can do that easily with Office 365. Lastly, there's the Cloud Security Alliance. So Office 365 meets compliance and risk management requirements as defined in the CSA. Cloud Control Matrix. So the Cloud Control Matrix is published by a not-for-profit member-driven organization of leading industry practitioners focused on helping customers make the right decisions when moving to the cloud. The matrix provides a detailed understanding of the security, privacy concepts, and principles that are aligned to the Cloud Security Alliance guidance in 13 domains. In other words, you are covered completely from an Office 365 point of view. And we come to our last slide today, and that's the customer compliance controls. And in that you can see that in the customer compliance you have 5 main concepts: the data loss prevention, the auditing and retention policies, the e-discovery, data spillage management, and data deletion. And in these senses, in data loss protection, Exchange Online provides data loss prevention technologies that identify, monitors, and protects sensitive data and helps users understand, manage data risk. Auditing and retention, you can audit all what's happening through your system to understand who deleted what has happened, who moved some files, who accessed them, where have they been accessed, when was it done, if you would like to retain a certain email before it's being sent, if you would like to control certain functions from happening within the environment, you can do that through the through your system. You can provide controls over your email to provide you when you send an email, for example, it has to go through the manager's approval before it's being sent. Certain functions, for example, it provides you in the e-discovery function, for example, that if you add certain information, for example, like the credit card information, your account information, all that stuff, this in a way detects it and asks you first before you want to send it or not. And if you send it, if there's a control over it, it provides that to the management to seek the approval before it is being sent. And this can be delegated easily. So the e-discovery compliance officers can retrieve content from across Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, and Link Online. All right, and you can have one single experience for searching and preserving emails, documents, and site and mailboxes. And in that case, you can have, for example, if you go for the Office 365 E3 plan, if you have the advanced archiving concept in the e-discovery, it easily finds for you a certain email, for example, that you had 10 years ago, if you would like. Data spillage management. So Office 365 has compliance features to support if your organization ever needs to manage data spillage. For example, if a federal government organization were to transmit classified data into Office 365, there are ways for the organization to remove the data by themselves. Compliance and security officials with appropriate RBAC privileges can use e-discovery to search for the message or document and hard delete them. Finally, the data deletion. In data deletion, customer data privacy is one of our key commitments to the cloud. So Microsoft said with Office 365, at contract termination or expiration, they will provide at least 90 days for the administration to confirm all data migration has been completed, at which point the data will be destroyed to make it unrecoverable. Further, they provide guidelines to the administrator to personally destroy data if that is preferred. Electronic discovery can be performed to verify that no data can be returned. And by this we come to the end of this presentation. I hope going through all these features you have a clearer picture understanding how the security and compliance part of Microsoft has been covered. And if there's any questions that you would like to follow through and you would like to go through with us, please contact me directly. My name is Omar, or any of our representatives through connect@liveroute.net. And at that sense, we can answer any of your emails, and we can set up meetings at any point to discuss further how the security it is. If there's anything, this YouTube video will be uploaded today, and you can access it at any point to recap on all this. And we will be sending you an email with the security and compliance data sheet that has been provided through the Trust Center of Microsoft to give you a clear picture of all that. Thank you, and hope to see you soon.